Hey, this is Nicolosi, and in this video I'm going to showcase what's new in Mela 6.8. Here I have a logic pro session running on macOS. I've picked a simple drum loop from Logic Pro's library, and I'm inserted Mela as an audio effect. I have audio in, followed by a new gain computer module, then volume, and a clipper to keep levels under control, and audio out so the signal can go back out to Logic Pro. And this is what it sounds like. Okay, let's discuss the gain computer module. It's a module I'm very excited about. I wanted to have this module for a long time, and I spent whole of last month implementing it, and I'm quite happy how it turned out. It's quite feature-rich, and it's like a whole new plugin. But because it's a module in Mela, you can combine it with other modules, all sorts of ways to create interesting dynamics effects. You can check out help. It's quite long with all the details. I try to keep it succinct, but still cover all the details. Some of the things you can create with it is a feedback compressor, upward expander, look-ahead limiter, sidechain gate, and de-esser. But that's just a short list. You can create all sorts of interesting dynamics effects. And the reason it's called a gain computer is because dynamics processors, if you know how dynamics processors work, you know that it has a component called a gain computer. What it does is that it calculates how much gain reduction or expansion needs to be applied to the input signal. And that's exactly what this module does. It doesn't process sound. Instead, it generates a modulation signal. So if I play this audio, turn the gain computer on and off, you'll hear it, the sound won't change. Okay, let's discuss the interface. One thing I'll mention is that in this video, I'm not going to go through all the details how you can use gain computer. I'll create a separate series where I'll create different types of processors in each video. But here I'll give you a high-level overview, and later on I'll go into more detail. If you have any questions, leave a comments below, and I'll know what to focus on. Okay, so gain computer has three tabs: transfer, envelope, and targets. On the transfer tab, we have a standard transfer graph with standard controls: threshold, ratio, knee. We can also set a type, expander type, or a compressor. Range allows you to set maximum amount of gain reduction or expansion. When it's negative, you have a downwards compressor or downwards expander. When it's positive, you have upwards compressor and upwards compressor or upwards expander. And range is especially useful when you have an upwards processor, because you want to keep the levels can get out of control really fast, especially with high ratios. And also it's useful for the gain computer module itself, because when you set it to, say, minus 36 dB, what happens is that modulation for gain reductions from 0 to 36 dB, it will be mapped to modulation signal 0% to minus 100%. And when it's positive, let's say it's 12 dB, gain increase from 0 to 12 dB will correspond to modulation signal going from 0 to 100%. Okay, let's look at the envelope tab. And what we see here is a modulation signal displayed in this oscilloscope, and the standard time controls for a compressor or a dynamics processor. We also have a detector peak and RMS modes. And so when it's when the range is as a negative value, this corresponds to 0%, and this corresponds to minus 100%. And when it's positive, this corresponds to 0%, and this corresponds to 100%. And finally, we have a targets tab. And so let's modulate this gain parameter here and see how it sounds with these settings. First thing I'll mention is that the gain parameter here actually goes from minus 36 dB to 36 dB. And because we have range set to minus 36 range here, minus 36 dB, that means our modulation signal that's going from 0 to -100 corresponds to going from 0 dB to -36 dB. And because this one has a full range from -36 dB to 36 dB, but we want to use the lower half, we need to set the modulation amount to 50%. So to map things correctly. And as you can see now, this looks like a gain reduction for us. And see, it's just over 50% here. So that means that if you look at the modulation signal, it's slightly over 50% at times, and we're getting the similar matching behavior. So, and if I turn the audio out, we'll hear the effects of our compressor. Now, if I bypass this volume, then we'll be bypassing our compressor basically. And we can adjust our attack release to change the sound. We can change to RMS mode. And then we can also move this dial as a makeup gain. If I increase it, this is the original signal. This is compressed signal. And now I can change it to expander here, and and let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, notice that we chose range to be -36 dB here, which nicely works with this dial, which has range from -36 to 36 dB. And what if we want to have gain reduction of 12 dB? So in other words, range is set to -12. This transfer graph updated correspondingly, and envelope now shows a reduction from 0 to 12 dB, which corresponds to 0 to -100% modulation signal. But because modulation is still set to 50%, it's still mapping to going from 0 to -36 dB. So to fix this, we need to calculate what 12 dB range here corresponds to. And because total range is 72 dB here, from -36 to 36, that's 72 dB. To get to 12 dB, that's like 1/6. So we need to divide 100% by 6, and that's about 16.667%. And now it correctly maps gain reduction from 0 to -12. And this is what it sounds like. Okay, so as you can see, it's still possible to create this mapping with different ranges. But what if you want to set it to -10 dB? You can still calculate the amount of intensity you need to apply, but it's not a nice way of doing things. So that's why there is another module called gain, which helps you with that. And the way gain module works is that if I bypass gain computer here as well as volume. And turn audio out back on. And so when I move the slider from 0 down to 100%, it will linearly reduce the level from 0 to minus 24 dB. And when I move this from 0 to 100%, it will add gain from 0 to 24 dB. But if I change it to 12, it will be the same. It will go from 0 to minus 12 dB, and this will go from 0 to plus 12 dB. And let's test it out. And I'm gonna reduce this as I play the audio, and we should get minus 12 level, and then I'll bring this back up, and then we should be back to the same level. Okay, so let's set this back to their original values. And so obviously you can use this gain parameter all sorts of ways by modulating it. The sliders, for example, you can create a tremolo. But this is especially useful when combined with gain computer. It makes life much easier. So if I have a range set to minus 12 here, I can set it to the same value here. Let's pick some other value, like maybe I don't know, 15. And I can do the same here. I can set it to 15. Now, if I modulate this, let's remove this. And if I modulate this by 100%, gain reduction here will correspond to, will map exactly. So going from 0 to 100%, the modulation is set to 100%. Going from 0 to minus 100% will reduce this from 0 to minus 15. So, and you'll see that modulation here will correspond to gain reduction. So let's see what that sounds like. And now we have we switch to compressor, and this looks like a gain reduction. It looks like a normal compressor. You have like a gain reduction meter there, and you can also use this up slider for makeup gain. So now you can do the opposite. If you have an upwards expander, so let's say we set this to 6 dB and set to expander here, and then what I'll do, instead of having instead of modulating down, I'll modulate up by 100%, and I'll set the range to 6 dB. And now we'll have a up to 6 dB gain. But now maybe we want to compensate for this extra gain, and we can use the down slider to reduce it. Okay, so that's basically how the gain module works. And I want to mention one more thing. You may have heard there are like two types of compressors, feedback compressor and feedforward compressor. And this layout gives you a feedforward compressor. And if I go back to, let's set to back to compression, maybe up to minus 24 here, and then change target back to gain down. And now if I play it, So that's what you would call a feed-forward compressor, because gain computer calculates amount of gain reduction needed from the unprocessed signal, and then gain reduction is applied after. But if I put this gain module before gain computer, now it's a feedback compressor, because gain computer calculates amount of gain reduction needed after the input signal has been processed. So let's hear what this sounds like. And in this case, we'll use the volume module for makeup gain. When you're doing a feedback compressor, you don't want to use this as a makeup gain, because that will not do the correct calculation. Okay, so I'll go into more detail in future videos how to create various types of compressors and expanders, also limiters and gates. But this is just a high level overview. And again, if you find anything confusing, if you want me to go into detail how some of these things work, let me know in the comments. Okay, finally, I want to discuss the latency feature. It was added to this version of Mela, and the feature is integrated into the audio in and MIDI in modules. You'll see it has a new parameter called the head. What it does is that it asks host to send audio and MIDI events ahead of time. The parameter allows you to set how early the events will arrive. This feature is useful in certain scenarios, like if you want to use envelope follower to detect peaks earlier than they appear in the timeline, or if you want to create a look-ahead compressor. However, most of the DAWs on iOS not yet currently support plug-in latency compensation. You may find that they will ignore this parameter. And I wanted to demonstrate this feature in Logic Pro. And the way I'm going to demonstrate is that I've created two identical tracks with the same sample appearing at the same time. I've inserted Mela as an audio effect on both channels, and one is called ahead and the other one is called normal. And they both have audio in and audio out modules with oscilloscope inserted in between, and one of them has a head parameter set to 1 second. What this means is that we will hear audio and see as well, using this oscilloscope, appear 1 second before the other one. So let's see, let's hear it. So as you can see, the audio signal arrived 1 second earlier to this instance. Okay, most of the time you won't need to set to 1 second, you'll set to something much lower, like 10 milliseconds or something, for envelope follower, for example. But I set it to 1 second to make the test obvious. And so Logic Pro as well as Ableton Live support this feature. However, as I said, a lot of iOS hosts don't support this yet, and users can use this technique, and developers can utilize the audio in and MIDI in module to develop this feature in their hosts. Okay, that's all for now. For any questions or feedback, leave a comment below. As I said, I'll create more detailed videos about Gain Computer. I'm really excited about it, and hope you enjoyed too, and let me know what you think. See you next time.